Hello everybody, my name is Kelly Swanson, citizen scientist and inventor of DARKLight filters. I want to talk to you about the DARKLight filter process, and I'm working on an image right now that you're seeing. And I decided, because I have limitations on my laptop, to narrate this after the fact. So as you're seeing on the screen, I'm adjusting this bottom part of what I believe is a black hole. I've been able to identify with dark light filters the concentrated frequencies of a black hole, and they're the same every single time. With my filters, they have a blue hue, which is a photon area, and they emit that PDR all the time. In some cases, they're shaped a lot differently than what we've mathematically seen, because the mathematic model of it is perfect, and where I've introduced asymmetry into the models by varying the waves of frequencies, I get a truer notion of what each one might look like. As you can see, this right here, when viewed in visible light, it looks like a galaxy. But as you can see, there's a lot of energy going on around there. It creates sort of a halo. It reminds me of a mushroom cloud, actually, but it's actually a galaxy right there in the center. Now, at the heart of most galaxies that most mathematical models have been able to determine, there are a type of black hole. There's speculation as to what kind of black hole is in the middle of a galaxy, but we know for sure that there's always is one. I can vouch for that. I have been able to image these hundreds of times, and each time the same hole shows up. Now, sometimes the holes are absolutely perfect vortices. For any of you that don't know what a vortex is, think of a tornado, and think of looking down on a hurricane or a cyclone. And there's a major reason why those look the same as well. It's spinning. It's spinning. When you look at a hurricane, unless you look at it or a cyclone, or any cyclonic event, when you look at it from outer space, it looks like it's standing still when the satellites look at it. But we speed it up with time lapse, and then you can really see that, moving. Or we speed up the whole process of the video, and you can see how much spin is in there. And the spin, it's just like anything else. Flying in an airplane, you look like you're standing still, but you're moving at 610 miles per hour. So it's all a matter of human perspective as to what you think is fast and what really is fast. You'd never know that we're traveling along at 200,000+ miles an hour in our planet, through the universe, through our galaxy. So as you're seeing this, I'm going through the different filters after I've made some adjustments to kind of see what type of energy shapes this thing actually is. The immense color tone will remind you of the old color tone televisions and the way the red, green, and blue were. This is spectrum, okay? You gotta understand, this is the energy spectrum for which we're seeing. When you see dark purple, you're seeing the deepest, densest color in our elements, and a very rare amount of radiation, X-ray, protonic activity, neutronic activity, and so forth. I've tried to enlist the help of astrophysicists to help me with my math on this, and I think it would be beneficial for a lot of people, including the federal government and the military. What I've developed here is just a reference of what Sir Isaac Newton invented and developed in his book Optics. I've just taken it and modified it to such a degree that I can make it modern for the modern filter, the modern digital filter. It's still using achromatism, which is where you take multiple sources of white light, and in his case it was a prism, and you focus it in order to prevent color bleed, so that you focus the beam at it. It's very much like a laser beam, and you focus it in such a way that the proper shape and everything gets filled in, and you get this image that you're seeing right now. It's startling to see some of these things, because this is the first time I've ever seen them, right alongside the person who's looking at them on Twitter or YouTube, wherever I show it. And the unfamiliar, uncanny valley, as we call it in psychology, is right there. It really makes you feel uneasy. You're going, whoa, what is this? And it's real, because it's in a photograph. It was recorded by a telescope. Part of my invention with DARKLight is to prove my theory that when you take a picture of something, it doesn't matter anywhere. You're taking a picture of everything, whether you can see it or not. And under this guise, I've gone forward with my theory and my invention and proven it. Because that's what the scientific method states you have to do in order to prove your theories. And it's scary, but it's also delightful to see it come to fruition and to mature over this 4-year period. And as we go into the 5th year of this, we're getting to the 5th generation filters of DARKLight. These filters, as you can see, have gone from little squiggly weird lines of brightly colored abstracts almost, to focused images of what I've been posting, which are legitimately real. I don't use any sort of AI generative methods. I don't, or they would probably look better. Let's put it that way. Reality doesn't look as great as you think it is, and it's very, very messy. There are shapes in the universe that match mathematical formulas, but yet we've never seen them in nature. We've only seen them on a math paper. And what this DARKLight filter set does is it looks at specific frequencies. If we can, that's the reason I stack the frequencies, and I'm going to show you here on the video how I stack these, so that I can see a completely full spectrum, somewhat holistic look at what it is that we're looking at. That way, and I do it for the viewers, because sometimes it teases out a small portion of the bigger picture, and you can see the items in their contextual self-image, you know, the way they are there. But we can't see them in the visible spectrum because they're either too negative, too neutral, or too bright. The bright just washes it out and it looks like a big cotton ball in outer space. That's what black holes look like. If you're looking at any of NASA's photography and you see a very bright white fuzziness, that's a black hole. End of story. Every single one I've developed so far, they're black holes. And what we're looking at there is the event horizon, which is so much brighter than a sun. And when you look at a quasar, quasars are typically a black hole event horizon right next to a star. And they create the photocircle in the center of the two. It's quite amazing to see, and I've developed quite a few of them. Each one is different. The one thing I will say is black holes have a variety, stars have a variety, quasars have a variety, just like our planets have a variety. And the formations in which they get put together is a variety within itself. It's almost like Mother Nature reached out and spread their love across the universe, because I'm seeing all of these different things. I want to make sure that that's clear to everybody. When I started working in these I followed the parameters that Sir Isaac Newton stated, is that you never really have to mess with color. You only have to mess with black and white. And by adjusting black and white, when the picture goes black, color appears on the other side. And when the picture goes completely white, color reappears on the other positive side. So there's this double frequency that's going on, and it's a layered frequency. And so when I built these filters, Adobe has an SDK, and the filter process was made with the Luau script. And so I took the mathematical formulas that Sir Isaac Newton, and I equated those to the RGB so that I could produce a sort of quasi-prism within the software so that it would form that achromatism point that I needed to pierce these color frequencies that I theorized. So by doing that, I failed. I kept failing. I felt like I was trying to make a light bulb. And I kept at it because every now and then, a little dot would appear or a little line would appear of color. And I'm like, there it is. Something's back. So I just kept going forward, and just kept going down into the negative. Well, once I got the first filter created, I was then able to use the filter. And as I used the filter, it kind of honed it. It's like sharpening a knife. You create that one knife, and then you just keep sharpening and sharpening and sharpening. Next thing you know, you've got yourself a razor blade. And then you go beyond that, you got yourself a scalpel. The prismatic capability of this spectrographic filter is so precise, it can get down into small objects, like planetary objects, and it can get very, very microfine. I've been wanting, like I stated, I wanted to get with some astrophysicists so we could actually measure how fine this can get down to, because it is, without saying, a very exact instrument of spectrographic capability. And it's kind of like I'm flying blind here. Like I'm the only one in the world that's got this pair of binoculars, and I'm just using it and looking at it. I really want to share this with people. I want people to see it. I want people to get it into the hands of scientists, and I want them to, play with it. What can this thing do? Just like we had first when we invented the laser beam. When we invented radio, it's like, what can we do with this? Can we transmit with it? Can we look beyond everything? And I've already answered some of those questions, and I have answers for them. And, seeing right there way loops, when I first announced, hey, way loops in nature, not just in plants, not just under an electron microscope, but in a big galactic picture, right there in the photograph. The cameras took the energy in, recorded it. But because it's beyond the visible spectrum, we can't see it. And so it's as simple as that. But this isn't, this isn't phenomenon. This isn't fake. This is just photography. This is just a level of photography that we've just now gotten into, which is at the quantum level. It's getting down into the finer negatives and neutrals and splitting frequencies and breaking down just light itself into a more powerful version of itself. We've skipped along for over 1,000 years using color, light, and different things. And yes, we've got very powerful green lasers, and we've got blue lasers, and we've got ultraviolet, and we've got all these different things that we can do, but we haven't even scratched the surface. And that really frustrated me, because I knew there was something there, because I have a vision issue where I see really intense red and really intense black, and I've had it since I was a kid, and it's just part of what I am, and it made me a good artist as a kid, so I would draw a lot. And I could get really detailed, and people go, wow, how do you see that? To see the shadows and see the spectra, really fine detail, real high contrast. So there's the original photo right there. And then I just went back to the filter so that you can see I'm actually working on a photograph. All of these items, picking these out with these energy zones, they're all right there in the photo. They've all been recorded, taken a picture of. You can do this with an iPhone. I've done this outside with pictures up in the sky. I've done it with instant negatives. I've also to debunk some UFO photos out there and made some people upset. But they're transparent objects. They're objects that enter our universe, and they fly around our universe, but they enter our solar system. Just rocks and debris, but they are moving at such a velocity that it just mystifies most humans. And they move at such a wonky speed and quick to just bounce off of an electrical grid in our atmosphere and take off in a completely different direction, or appear to just disappear when they actually didn't. This sleight of hand movement of quantum and nuclear type movement is known in the electron world and known in the CERN and all the different super colliders we have. This stuff appears in an instant. So when something is flying and then all of a sudden it disappears, well, it went somewhere, whether it fell to the ground in an instant or it disintegrated just like that. And yes, it happens just like that. So what we're doing right here is I thought I'd take you in and show you how I use Star Stacker. I love this app. It's a really easy app to work with. It has some quirks, but I love the quirks about it because it forces me to do the right thing. So I'm just going to stack these frequency screenshots and images that I did in order to see what's going on inside. And like you can see there, sometimes that's not desirable. I understand what's going on in that image, but to the regular viewer, they're like, what's this artistic mess, And I want them to understand what's in there. And that's why I do these, because that's the jumbled mess of the universe. Those are all the energy parts and pieces and neutrons and protons and electrons and muons and everything all mixed up from a distance. You got to remember, it's all speckled up like this because we are taking a picture from light years away. That's pretty impressive nowadays because we couldn't even do that over a couple hundred years ago. We could, but they looked horrible. Nothing to this detail. So we're looking at these shapes trying to figure out what's going on here. And I'm sure there's been some scientists that looked at some of my images I posted on Twitter and were like, dude, this guy's weird. I've never seen stuff like this before. This got to be, fake. Because that's exactly what I thought when I saw it. I was like, what? Maybe my camera's broken. Maybe there's something wrong with the telescope. Things like that. Nope, they're all there. I've gone through over 9,000 images in both ESA's archive, photos from other astrophotographers, and of course I don't publish those. Those are mine just to test my camera and my filters. But I've studied enough of the images going way back to the very beginning with Hubble when it first started off. And then I've also processed some images from the 1960s when we did the space stuff in outer space and the Apollo landings, and we took pictures from the moon and everything. And that's a whole nother weird experience, is developing those, because those were taken with film cameras rather than digital cameras. So they have their own quirks and anomalies in there that I've had to work through on some of these filters. So there it is. That's the whole piece. And I'm going to take the original and I'm going to overlay this so you kind of see it in context. These are energy lines and objects that are within the photograph moving. And I can pierce right through these bright layers. I can pierce right through just about any material or matter with these filters. It's quite astounding. I hope one day that it'll have applications in aerospace, military, medical, and everything. Just like our nuclear, nuclear used to be all top secret. Remember, the Manhattan Project and all that. But now we use nuclear medicine. We now use nuclear isotopes for radioscopic examinations. We use all sorts of things. As we harness the power of our universe, we'll become smarter. I was just hoping before I leave this world that I'll leave the planet with something really amazing. My family has been a bunch of inventors for a long time, and painters and everything else. We've provided legislation even for the common man. So being able to just do something simple like this, that I think is simple, but has ramifications for the entire world, it's something that I've always wanted to achieve. And I knew this filter was capable one day, as I would take pictures of football games in high school, and I'd process the photos manually, and I'd see some weird, every now and then you see these weird barking mad colors inside your images, and you're like, what was that? Like something flew by in the sky. It wasn't a UFO, but it could have been a daylight meteor. It could have been a daylight comet. And you just dismiss it. You don't really think anything of it. But yeah, as you can see here, I kind of pick and choose depending on what I'm trying to put together as the image to show specific. And in this case, I wanted to make sure the background was darker so that it could show the layers within the photo itself, and then put the whole full visible light image over it to give you the context of it. Really makes some of those planetoids pop out. I mean, some of those things are big. There's suns, some of them are small stars. One of the things you'll see in my pictures, and I pointed it out in my posts, that the images, when you'll see these little squares, and you'll see pluses and half pluses and little shaped L's. Those are stars. And you got to remember, we're taking, some of these things are billions of light years away that we're taking pictures of. So it's an amazing feat that we can get the stars that small. But imagine with the bigger stars, like the quasars and everything. So I hope you like this video, and I hope you'll continue watching some of the other videos, and check me out on Twitter, because I post almost every day somebody's new photo, or I'll image one of the photos of the day or something like that. Thank you, and have a wonderful Labor Day. Bye-bye.